Hello and welcome to Flory Models for our first Tuesday Q&A of the year. Here we are with you on the 5th of January 2021. Still getting used to saying 2021. Anyway, as you can see, we have started this year, as I said, starting off with the S860B, and obviously we're doing the Star Trek Enterprise from the Into the Darkness one. So far we've come together really very, very well. So as you can probably see down in here, we've got the main body part done. Is in there. Now again, this is going to be a funny build really, because we're doing it quite quickly because it's all going to be about the painting and weathering, and to be honest it's going together really, really well. It's one of those ones where the fit isn't too bad. It's typical Revell's, a little bit of flash, it's a little bit soft, and we've got the odd sink mark, but generally I think we're going to be okay with it. The thing is with this particular kit, there's lots and lots of clear parts, which I think if you was to put an LED into it and things like that, it'll probably look quite nice, to be honest with you. As we spoke about during the beginning of this one, we're not going to bother with LEDs because I never turn them on anyway, and they just sit there in sort of situ with nothing going on with them, and they look fine just like that. But the trouble you've got is, like, when are you going to put in, how are you going to do it? Because obviously these have got some gorgeous clear blue colours and things like that, so they're going to need to be masked up. But when you're dealing with stuff this small, obviously it's tiny ones in here. What I'm going to do is these with pens, so I'm going to come in here with like Posca pens and things like that to put the windows in. So we've had to put the clear parts in those ones all the way through. But generally, as you can see, this is together. We've got the saucer, which is over here, which I haven't put together yet either, which is the reasons for all of this, but this will fit on. So actually it's a really nice size. The actual engine, the cells on this thing are absolutely huge. Really very, very big on this one. Some complex curves and that, so you can understand why the moulding is done this way. But again, as you can see up in here, you've got these clear parts which are going to be up in there. So it's like one of those things about how you're going to do it, how you're going to show it and stuff like that. I have got the mask set, thanks to one of our members who sent me the mask set for it, which the more I'm looking at it, I can't help but feel it's completely over the top. Because technically you got the Aztec patterns on this one. When you're looking at, and I've watched the film back again yesterday, and it was like you're watching it and seeing it in there, it's very, very difficult to see it. It's as the light catches it more than anything else. We are going to have a go with them, but I'm probably not going to use exactly all the ones that go down in there. I have to say the decal sheet is gorgeous. Very, very nice ones on this. So some of the markings in here, obviously they're taken care of this way, which is going to make things obviously on the painting stage quite straightforward. Okay, so that's all right. So there's lots of decals to go on with this one. So the whole point with this is it's probably only going to be one or two parts to get it together as a whole. I've explained during part one, as you'll get this one a little bit later on in the week, the reason we're not going to be putting this together, so we can put in all the clear parts afterwards, after it's been painted, and then hopefully we might be able to do something similar with the engines. I'm not quite sure how we're going to work those yet, but this one we've actually buttoned up and put it all together and got it in there. And obviously we've got a nice stand for it, which is this one over here, obviously with the Federation logo, so that's very nice as well. So that'll be something a little bit special with that one, but generally coming together. So hopefully it's not going to be too much as in the build work and everything else, because that's quite straightforward, and then we can work out obviously with the painting, and then obviously it's going to be doing the Aztec type of markings onto it with all the panel work, and then it's going to be about weathering it. And again, we're not going to go massively over the top with the weathering. This isn't one that's been out on a 30-year mission, so technically hopefully it'll be quite subtle but quite nice. But again, it'll be a nice start to the year as we make our way with that one. The other one we're working on obviously is S860B. Haven't started with that one yet. I'm probably going to work on this one pretty much this week, and then start on the S860B next week as we make our way through with that one. So it's coming along very, very nicely on those. So they're coming along, no problem at all. Thanks obviously for all the feedback continued from you. A couple of you asking various questions about obviously with the EU stuff and the various things that are going on there. Just a quick recap. Basically, if you're an EU member, you've now got a free subscription courtesy of us and the Flory family as a whole. We've all agreed that we want to keep you obviously as members and everything else like that. If you haven't got a membership and you're on a yearly subscription, please get in contact with me. If it's due within around about 14 days, if you know that your annual subscription is due, you know, perhaps the beginning of January or something else like that, and or sort of, you know, beginning of February, let me know, and then that month I can get you deleted and moved over, because I have to clone your account, you see, to move you over, and it's a little bit in depth. So if I can do that in front hand, otherwise what happens is I have to wait a couple of days after your payment's gone through, then I have to refund you and then cancel your subscription and then go through the rigmarole of it. It's a little bit more in depth to do it on that way. So anyway, that's that. Shipping and everything going abroad at the moment, we are still in a little bit of limbo, because we are still trying to work out the best way of shipping orders internationally. It's not a problem to the US and rest of the world, it's just to Europe. But the way the VAT is charged, obviously sometimes we charge the VAT and we pay the government direct for it the way that you do it now, or it has to be done where we obviously take the VAT off and then it is sent and then it's held in your customs and you'll have to pay the VAT before they release it. We're still trying to work out the intricacies of it. We're not the only one. A lot of the big other companies out there are in the same boat as us. We're all sort of treading water trying to work out the best way of doing it and stuff like that. We're working very, very close at the moment with one of our couriers to set up a system to get it all in there, and hopefully we can get everything moving on. I know for a fact, and he won't admit it, but he's actually pulling his hair out. He's going to go grey in front of our very eyes. Is our very own Matt over at PM Models. But hopefully we'll get this sorted and we can move on from it. But it is a complete headache at the moment. So at the moment we're sort of just treading water with it. As soon as we can get it nailed down and sorted, obviously we'll be back to sales as normal to make our way on. Don't forget though, if you want anything from Flory Models type of side of it and you're in the US or Canada, things like that, then obviously get it direct from High Altitude Hobbies, because Brett's got it all in stock there. You can get it direct from him. I've got another restock going out of him to next week, so he'll carry good stocks, all the Flory Models range, so you can get it obviously from him as we make our way through. Obviously, the big news at the moment is the UK, as of, well, tonight, last night, I don't know, whenever it came in, we are in lockdown again. So that's it, full lockdown. This isn't just one of those part lockdowns. Obviously, business and industry is still moving, but pretty much everybody else has been told to work from home. So, yeah, we're going to be back to doing the COVID live shows. Now, we can't do as many perhaps as we did last time because we've got other things to do. But what we intend to do is probably I'm going to do a show with you on a Monday. So we'll do a live show sort of Monday afternoonish, and then Tuesdays, obviously you're going to get this one anyway, but next week we'll probably make it a live show instead, so we can interact with you guys obviously in the live chat room for if you've got an afternoon free and things like that. Wednesday with me and Matt, we'll make that one a live one as well, so you can interact direct with that one as well. Thursday night we're on with you anyway because we're in with the guys and those types of things to make our way through, and then Friday we'll probably do Friday afternoon as a live show so we can interact with you as well to make our way through. The other thing as well, I'm going to probably put on my studio cam as well, which will be for obviously for members. You can watch that in the forum. There's no audio to it because otherwise you'll hear me burping and farting and all the rest of it, so, or swearing a lot, but obviously if you wanted to watch you could see what's going on with there. So when I am working I will flick on the live cam so you can obviously I'll be streaming that live as well. But again, because I'll be working doing this, I can't sort of answer questions because I'll be talking to the camera, so no disrespect because you're over here, I won't be talking to you, I'll be talking over there, but you can watch to see what's going on in the background as we make our way on with those ones as always. So that's about it. That's where we are as we sit here on Tuesday afternoon. So obviously it is Q&A day. So if we pop over to the questions. Questions that are up here, obviously some of these are a little bit older because obviously it's around the Christmas time when we're in before. So Ed's put up here a quick question. I noticed that the bottles you were using for the MRP with the long needle ones, yes, it's these ones. So this is the ones we do, which are the bottle sets. So we sell these for £5. So yes, there we go. Or this is actually it's Brett's link. So there you go. This is Brett's link. Has got them down in here as well. So you can grab those just like that. They're impervious to pretty much everything. They're HTPE, which means you put lacquer thinners into them, you put acrylic thinners into them, you can put wash through them, anything you want. And these are obviously watertight dropper bottles, so they unscrew and screw on. Okay, and you can just do them straightforward like that. Pretty straightforward. You know, nice easy things to use and all the rest of it, and they don't break the bank either. Okay, Alan says, Phil, wishing you and your family a happy Christmas and New Year from the Fords in New Zealand. Well done. Happy New Year to you guys. Nice firework display as well. I thought ours was good with the drones, but yeah, no, very good one. Lynn says, Phil, thank you so much for all you do for us. I received my mug the day after Christmas. They were not damaged in any way. Good job. And now I've got all four of them, both 2020 and the 2021. I really like them for a lot. Absolutely. My question is this. You were talking about thinning putty filler on one of your shows, and I was wondering what to thin either Mr. White Putty, Squadron Putty with. Okay, so obviously you got technically two schools with putties. You've got water-based putty, which is, if I got mine around here we have it. which is like this one, perfect plastic putty. This goes with water, and that's what I like about it. It's really easy clean up, and it's easy clean up as well. So that's my sort of go-to putty. If you want to use any of like the Mr. Putties, they are technically lacquer based, okay? So you can thin them with lacquer thinners, and that's a great way with it. And obviously you can buy like things like these. So this is dissolved putty, which is basically what it is. So this is just your normal sort of white putty that's been dissolved. But Tamiya putties, Squadron putties, all those ones like that, they're solvent based, okay? So a little bit of thinners, mix it into a little dish, something else like that. I tend to use bottle caps with it. So you just grab yourself, not that I've got a drawer full of these, but if you get just little bottle caps, put a bit of thinners in there, obviously a bit of the putty, mix it into there. You can make it into a paste, and then you can use it. And then obviously you can just put it on and brush it on. And then obviously the same thing with where we use water and a cotton bud with perfect plastic putty, because it's water based, it just comes away. You can do something similar, I say similar, with lacquer thinners as well. And if you've seen me do air intakes, it's how I do it as well. But you have to know that lacquer thinners will soften plastic, so you want to keep it wet. As soon as it starts to dry and pull and drag, you'll actually start dragging plastic. So you want to keep it quite wet so it slides over the surface, all right? So that way you won't make any sort of brush marks and stuff in there. But it does work exactly the same way. Second question, what is the difference between an SU-17 and SU-22? That's well above my pay grade. That's taken me. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not a SU person, or not the early ones. 27s, I'm okay. But I must admit, I don't know about the 17s and the 22s. I'll have to ask Comrade Buller on that one. So defer that one over to Thursday night, and I'll ask him on that one. Okay, IB Cyclist. Okay, speaking of this, and I'll do it after the show. Mike, I'm going to change your name, because obviously we're using real names now, and as I spot people, I'll be changing your name without notice. But there we go. So we'll sort that one out for you so we know a bit better. So Mike says, since I got back into the hobby, I've tried to love modern aircraft, but the one thing that gets me every time is the landing gear. Is it just me, or is there a trick to surviving the lack of locating pins and poor instructions for the tiny gas struts? I've recently finished the Edard 148 scale MiG-21, not happy, and now I'm attacking the Mirage 3C with the manufacturers, with the same manufacturer, but again, no locating pins. I've now taken to drilling and inserting brass rods. But now I'm doing this on a premium kit. Can you help? Gear is one of those things. You want to treat gear like a mini model, as I always say. Yes, I know what you mean by the lack of locating pins, but the thing is, you're dealing with something that's so small. A lot of them are just touch fits, because there's no room in the detail that will allow a pin or a proper join or anything else like that. So sometimes it may be just a cup, and then obviously you've got your socket that goes in. So this maybe have the travel on the gear is. So it just will be that, and it literally fits in, and that's how it goes. What I highly recommend is going on to like Google, do a Google image search or a walk around of that particular aircraft, and then you can look at the gear from different angles and get a feel for how it goes and how it sits. And also just taking into account is like what we call weight on wheels. So the gear, as it's obviously under compression with the weight of the aircraft, it might sit differently to how it might be in the air. So I know some people have often been caught out, F-16s are a classic for it, in the air. F-16's gear is quite long, so like F-18 Hornets looks nothing like it is when it's on the ground, because it bends right up, it actually rotates back up on itself. So again, they look very, very different. So you just want to get good references and just see exactly where they go. But for pinning it and stuff, normally the gear is of a certain degree of strength that it will hold it. I don't think I've ever been in a situation where I've had gear that is literally unusable. Normally they do go in there and away you go. Super glue is your friend, like I always say. You can literally just to put it into position, just to hold it, a tiny little bit of super glue, just to get it to be there. And once it's there, you can actually then come in with a little bit of extra thin and just touch, especially if you've pre-painted it all, just touch it, let it weld itself up, and then obviously just leave it hovering before you put it down onto its gear. Okay, so it doesn't collapse, so it's in there and firm. But the thing is, you get like the actuators down in there, and obviously the things for the gear, for the doors, you know, for obviously the actuators on that for closing them up and that. They can get a little bit fiddly putting them in, but again, especially if you're in 48 scale, they are very very, very small. When you're into 70-second, it's horrendous. You know, you need a pair of magnifiers and to know where it all goes. But again, references, they are definitely your friend. Have some references, have a good look at them. Understanding exactly how it goes and everything, it'll make things a lot easier. So when you're looking at it, you know, you're talking about the MiG-21. Now, I've built a few MiG-21s, and obviously with the Mirage 3, the Mirage 3 is not a complicated gear anyway on that one, but it's just knowing where it sort of goes. And sometimes instructions can be a little bit two-dimensional, to say the least. So they're showing you from one angle and it doesn't show where it is behind it and how it goes. That's when a reference shot comes in quite handy. So if you've got a reference shot of the gear section, you can see especially how doors sometimes attach to gear and stuff like that, because they tend to have very thin actuators on there and stuff like that. You can see exactly where they go. Normally there is a mark on the gear that shows where it should be going in, but sometimes it is just that goes to there. That's how it is. I won't get into my battles with natural metal finish surfaces to say I'm unconvinced of the magic that you've weaved so whilst doing the B17. Honestly, the thing is, when you're doing natural metal finishes, like I always say, and I can't say this enough, it's all to do with preparation. You want it to be gloss black, okay, and you want it to be like a mirror. You want to see your face in it, okay, because don't forget, if you've got any type of texture in there or anything else like that, it's going to just be dead, and you're not going to get a nice metal finish. It's going to look like silver, and that's when I said it. And when we did the B17, we covered it in depth about, even when I was polishing the black coat, you know, just to make sure we got any imperfections in there, that they're out of the way. Because if you get one hair in it or one little bit of, you know, a fingerprint mark or something else like that, where normally if you were doing something like this, or, you know, you could get away with that, you're not. It's going to show, because even if you sand it afterwards, so if you sand that gloss and you don't re-gloss it, it will look different. Have a look at the B17s. There's a couple of tips and tricks on there which we talk about in depth about it, but especially the bit where I show about the metal finish on that engine cowling, because obviously we give one a flat coat so it looks like it's had a touch up, and then obviously it's totally different to the other ones, and that's because one's under a flat finish, the rest of it is gloss, and it looks totally different. And it's one of those things where such a small thing can make a huge amount of difference, especially to the overall finish. Okay, Patrick says, hi Phil, I'm wondering if it's possible to renew e-new subscription this week before Brexit. Well, we're a bit late on that one, and that's all been sorted. Don't worry about it. Andrew says, question 1. I believe one of your previous Q&As with the team said Vallejo model colour thins well with Mr. Colour levelling thinners. No, it won't. I have thinned a few colours fine, but I've just tried with medium C grey and it will not mix and it turns into treacle. Okay, so what we're talking about is obviously these. Okay, so, you know, model colour, because it's a true acrylic, lacquers don't like it. Okay, it will thicken up. You can, like we said before, sometimes keep thinning and thinning, and then they will come to life and go with it, but some of them they will not. So like we said, it's probably not worth messing around with. At the end of the day, one of the best things you can thin Mr. Model Colour with is actually airbrush cleaner, acrylic airbrush cleaner. So I actually like thinning it with just standard 71199 airbrush cleaner. It thins beautifully, that stuff, but you want a true acrylic in there, not a lacquer thinner, because lacquer thinner thickens it up and it turns it to, you say, treacle, chewing gum, and you end up bunging up your airbrush and it's not good. So yeah, not exactly the best one for that one. Has anybody else had trouble with these colours? Yeah, don't do it. It's not a bad batch. It's just generally acrylic paints don't like lacquers. We've said before you can, because there's something in levelling thinner that actually works quite well, but that's not the same case for absolutely everything, because we've tried other lacquer thinners and they don't work. But there's something in it that's a little bit weird to all the others. Question 2. When joining parts to the previously been painted, do you scrape the paint away for the join, or do you allow the glue to eat through the paint? To be honest with you, extra thin, I will let it eat through, because it will. So it's not a problem if you're using like an extra thin, like a weld action glue on plastic, because it'll eat through. But if you're using it for resin, or something else like that, then you are best to scrape clean it. It will give you a far stronger join. Sometimes if it's not a structural part and it's just a little bit that's on there, it doesn't matter because there's no weight on it, there's nothing pulling on it, you're not holding it, it will be absolutely fine, okay? But a bit like we did the bowcaster, you can see that in Glorious Technicolor, I didn't scrape clean the parts resin to resin. We were putting in the bow itself and ended up popping the front off because we put a bit of pressure on it, and that's because the paint gave way. It was just the paint peeled clean off. So if I'd scrape cleaned, we didn't have that problem. So second time when it went together, it was scrape cleaned and you were fine. Things to remember though, like my new favourite, I've been using this a lot on this particular build, is Tammy's white top glue. That's resin, okay? So that has not got a weld action. So that one, again, you might want to clean your parts first before putting them together. I used it all the clear windows on here and it is all still crystal clear. It works really, really well. You'll see it in the video I show about it. But it's good for doing these types of windows because you just brush it everywhere, pop it on and it's fine, no problem at all. But like super glue, it's got no bite to it, so it won't melt the paint or anything else, it just sits there. So if it was to peel apart, you're going to take the paint off of it, that's what's going to happen. Scott says, Phil, cheers, and I hope you had a great New Year's. First, I want to thank you for all and the team for all that you do. Our pleasure. In the midst of a terrible year, you guys were my escape from reality. Second, I'm building the Panda Models Husky Mark III MRAP, and I need to know how to tint the armoured glass a very light green. Would you recommend Tamiya Clear or brushing it? Thanks. I don't know how well you can see it, and this is one of those ones where I can see it but I bet you can't on camera because obviously it's got a lot of weathering on this as well. But if you have a look at the close-up photos on the actual MRAP, we did do it. So the way that I did it on here is I did it from the side. So instead of painting the front of the glass, I used clear blue and just put it around the edges of it. So you've got that sort of hue coming through. Again, it makes it incredibly faint. It's not that you can see blue, it's just one of those things, it's got like a hue, that sort of like a tint from it. It's one of those where, especially if you look diagonally across it, you can see it. If you're looking square on, it looks clear, which actually I'm more than sort of happy with. But with all the weathering that's on that one, you can't really see it, to be honest with you. But that's how I would go about it. So I just do the edges of the glass. But if you wanted to, you could do clear blue, thin it and just spray the actual glass itself. You could do blue on one side, green on the other. It's a good little way of doing it. Or you could do it on both sides and just do it to the inside. So that way you get that sort of weighted look to it. A lot of the time if I do like bulletproof glass on World War II fighters for the front one, that's what I'll do. You know, just spray it on the inside of it. On the outside it looks absolutely fine. It doesn't worry about masking it because it'll be fine because obviously I don't paint the insides. So you can mask the outside of it and it's all good to go and you'll be fine with it. But yeah, clears work, no problem at all. The only thing I wouldn't use is lacquer. Use acrylic clears, not lacquer clears, if that makes sense. And Darren says, there's an old one. Hi Phil and team, a very happy new year to you. I recently discovered there used to be 1/50th scale kits with 1/48th being almost identical in size. Why did they change it? Again, this is just one of those things. It's a company thing. Some companies went 1/50th. Some companies went 1/48th. You know, there's other ones out there. And again, you've got that crossover. So some companies used to work with sort of 00 gauge. So that's like 1/56 or whatever it is. You know, and obviously 1/48th and stuff. But back in the day, there was numerous different scales. And Tamiya, I think we've been through this on one of the shows before, sort of pushed the way with certain scales and things like that, and they stuck to it. You know, and that's really where we are. And obviously 1/76 was the mainstay of Airfix back in the day for the small stuff, for armour and that, and it's like a funny scale, but it works with different genres they were doing, and with the wargaming sizes and stuff like that. So that's what it is. But I think that's one of those things that just back in the day, some companies decided they were going to go 1/50th scale, and away they go. I've got a feeling this kind of question is going to come back, because recently border models have started doing aircraft in 1/35th scale. So we're seeing their new Stuka in 1/35th scale. We've got a 109 coming out in 1/35th scale. And again, it's one of those that in some ways you think that's great because all your figures and perhaps support equipment and stuff like that for dioramas, they're all in 135th. Very rare you'll find it in 132nd. So that means now you could actually have a Stuka or a 109 and have troops around it, or support equipment all around it, all in the correct scale. So you think to yourself, so why isn't everything 135th? Because helicopters are. And it's one of those ones where it's just depending on different companies and how they do it, so they stick to it, that's what they push, and that's the way the world is. And obviously that one back then for that Type 99, that was how they did it with those ones. I haven't seen one of those kits before, so that's a new one to me. So yes, number one kit that was obviously the first one they did. So yeah, it's one of those strange questions, like why did we end up with, but when we've been through this before, and obviously for the guys who've read the books and things like that on that, it is that thing that comes round, is that they stuck with that scale because maybe of other things they were doing, like trains and stuff as well. With 00 gauge, it all fits in the same sort of pie with it. Oh, worm. Phil, happy New Year, Flan the family, definitely. Wondering how you'd approach doing the ME 262, the Revell 132nd with a camo below. Right, okay, well that's what I call worm camo. Obviously we see it a lot on Luftwaffe type stuff. Their bombers tend to have it as well. I've seen it on everything, pretty much on the bomber fleet. I must admit, I haven't seen that one though. Again, it's one of those ones where the fuselage and the wings all came out of different places, so when they were bolted together, they were always different. But again, putting on that camo, it is easy as making sure your airbrush is working well and you're happy with it. I would recommend lacquers for doing this job. Set the trigger, lock it to a certain depth, and then go. Literally go. The biggest bit of advice I can give you is don't forget the real one isn't as perfect as what they're showing on there. Again, it's that thing. It was probably done in the field, or if it wasn't, it was done with the guy with a spray can, and he would have had to stop and start exactly the same as you would. So when you're doing it, it's not going to be picture perfect as a graphic is like that. That graphic shows it being tight and it's perfect all the way through. We all know for a fact in real world it wouldn't be. They didn't have masks, it wasn't stencils or anything else like that. It was a guy with a can, literally, an airbrush, a giant one is in a spray can, and he's literally going right the way round, and every now and again he's going to have to refill, put more paint in, put it back in, and he's going to go again in the same way as probably you will have to as well. It's one of those things. Practice. Get your buster out, do it on the actual bit of cardboard, something else like that. Just get used to it and the flow, and you're happy and everything's going well, and then just go for it. And it's just one of those. When I've done it in the past, you go as far as you possibly can. So just as the bit where the airbrush is beginning to struggle, or that your hand's cramping up, or whichever it is, or you need to move your angle, just come off. Okay? Then start somewhere else and then work together. Okay, and you'll be absolutely fine with it. But also I highly recommend when you do it is to break it down. So perhaps do those engine nacelles separately, one at a time, and then do the fuselage, and then think about, so you've got it, and perhaps you've got it on your table, so you've got two-hand control and can go around, get yourself nice and comfy, happy with your flow, happy with your air pressure, everything's working well, and then just go. And just keep going until you're getting a bit funny angled, or if you're into a situation where something's not, it's starting to, perhaps the paint's not coming through properly, and then just stop, come off, clear through your airbrush, blow it through, make sure you're happy again. Then I would start perhaps on the tail and work your way towards the body, and then join it up that way, and you'll be absolutely good to go. But it's one of those ones where I think a lot of people overthink it, because when I've done it, and I've done it a few times now, it's one of those ones that actually it turns out better than you think. You just have a little bit of confidence in your actual airbrushing. Have a little bit of fun with it, enjoy it, relax as much as you can, and away you go, and you'll be fine. But the big thing is, if you ever see a real one, they're not perfect either. So, if yours isn't, then that's what it would be. And again, if you've got one that's totally perfect, it won't look right. It'll look too artificial, it'll look fake. So you want it to be slightly, gets wider, gets thinner with your lines. It fades off a little bit, comes back quite strong, because it'll make it look really natural. And that's what you're after when you're doing that type of camera work. Good luck with it, you'll be fine. Dave says, I'm using the Flory wash on my model with a gloss coat, but it bubbles up all over instead of spreading over the model like you see in your videos. I can send you a photo. It's fine. Okay, Dave, so what that means is your paintwork is very, very glossy. It's really, really, really good, okay? Which will be fine, because that means you're going to have a perfect panel light wash, no problem at all. But what it is, the actual wash can't get a grip on the surface because it's too glossy. So what I would do is decant a bit into whatever you do in a shot glass or something else like that, okay, a little cup, and then just add 1 drop of dishwater soap or, you know, washing up liquid. Just pop a drop in there, mix it up. It will foam up a bit, but what you'll notice is it will help break the surface tension, because that's all it is. It just can't flow because it's too shiny, so it's just sat on the top. So it is, if you've got glass down, the wash would just bead up. You've got something with a texture, it will flow, okay, and that's all it is. So just literally add a little bit more washing up liquid into it and you'll be absolutely fine with it. It'll go, it'll do the same thing, and as I said, you don't need much either, tiniest little amount in there. I wouldn't put washing up liquid just into a bottle, okay, because the thing is you're going to ruin it. It'll throw the ratios and stuff like that in there, but obviously for doing that type of work, just put a tiny bit in and you'll be absolutely fine. Andrew says, another question, if I may. My PS270 airbrush trigger is slow to return after pressing. Can you please advise on getting it to snap back? Note, I have cleaned the usual parts of the airbrush, i.e. needle. Thanks, Phil. Again, we've said about this one, sometimes it is literally just a case of, here we go. So we got this one here. All you want to do, whip the back off, then whip the needle out, take the needle out, okay, whip the back off just like this, okay. Then what I would do is just make sure this is all clean, and you can probably see I've got a little bit of crud on this one. It's not too bad actually. And then what you can do is, if you want to, you can put a little bit of WD-40 on this, it won't hurt it. Okay, so what you can do, and I have got some here somewhere. No, he hasn't, I've moved it. Scrap that, I put every can of WD-40 down there. But if you can, just literally give it a small spray and it'll be fine. Okay, and then when you come along, just down in there, you can probably see the hole, or you hopefully be able to see. Let's have a tighter camera here. Hold on, there we go. You see the little hole down in there? What you can do is grab a, until I'm back to work, everything's out of reach. Okay, you can take, I'm just gonna, literally I'll just wet the end of that. Put your cotton bud in here, just down into that hole, give it a twiddle around. And you can see there's not much dirt on here, but you've got a little bit in there. But you just want to make sure you're all nice and clear down in there. You can come in from this side as well. Okay, but you're all good. And then what you want to do, what's probably happened, you might have a little bit of dirt build up just on here. And then when this goes in, you just want it to drop right in the said hole. He says we can get it back in there. Okay, screw him back up, collar on the back, slide that in and through because that will hold the needle. Okay, and you're just looking for it to be in, just like that. Okay, and obviously the more you push this forward, tighten this up here, the more tension you put on the actual spring. So you could have it a little bit loose. Okay, have it like that, but if you want to, you can open this up and you can actually bring this back a little bit. But obviously you've got to reseat when you do that, everything in there. Okay, and that's got a really soft pull on the trigger. Okay, and then again, if you want to, you can screw this all the way forward and it makes a lot stronger pull on the trigger. Okay, the other thing as well is under here, you just want to put in, just to make sure this is all fine in here. So again, you just want to make sure it's all clear, because obviously the air goes up both sides. Okay, it's slightly different to the other one. You can put a prong in there and twist it and take it out, but you don't really need to worry about those on these. Okay, but you can see the pin coming down. It's all connected. so it should be good all the way through. Okay, and that is it. You should be okay. Normally it's just a little bit that builds up in here. You know, it gets a bit dusty and grimy down in there, and then it can obviously affect things. But yeah, should be good. Okay, so, wrong one. That's it. Phil, happy New Year to you and the crew. Keep up the amazing shows. It's great to contribution to me to staying psychologically sane during these crazy times. It is at the moment. I'm starting a new build thread. I've put it in the wrong folder. Okay, I've put the Swinging 60s chat. It should be in the work in progress. Oh, it should be in the seasick work in progress. Okay. Can you move it around? I've had a word that. Okay, right, leave it with me. I'll sort that out after the show for you as we make our way through on that one. So that's not a problem. Okay, that's it. There we go. Right, so as I said, I'll be with you tomorrow with Matt. I'm going to carry on with this little guy, see if we can get him together somewhat as we make our way through on there. Okay, and get that one hopefully somewhat together by tomorrow. So when you see it tomorrow, it might be in one bit, which would be quite good. Okay, and then obviously Matt with you live from around about 2 o'clock. And then obviously Thursday night we'll be with you. Friday afternoon we'll be live. And then next week we'll do some COVID shows. But again, they are all subject to sort of change. Who will be with me, when I'll be able to do them as well. Because obviously you've got life as well. And obviously I've got to do normal filming to make our way on. But obviously we'll try and keep you as entertained as we can as we make our way through. So that's it from me. Happy modelling. Take care. Catch you all tomorrow.